You know, technology is great until it isn't, and then it starts to like, well, I'm going to restart in the middle of whatever you're doing, whatever you were planning, whatever you thought you were about to do, you're not going to do anymore. We're going to go into restarting, we're going to update, we're going to do all these sorts of things. That's how life is sometimes. It just comes at you fast, and it changes, and it moves direction on you. And then sometimes you find yourself walking around your room in the dark looking for your cell phone, using your cell phone camera, because you just lost your mind. You're out of your mind. That's how things get sometimes. And then you wonder how you got there and what's going on and all this. And then someone sends you a verse to kind of cheer you up. And they say, well, what about Romans 8:28, where it says, in all things God is working for the good of those who are called according to his purposes. And they're just throwing out a verse there, just in context or in context maybe. And you're just like, what about it? And they say, well, it says, and we know. You're like, really? Do we? Do we know? Do we really know? Is it really true? Because at this moment, I can't feel where our God is. I don't know if he's really here, or if he's somewhere else, or if he's like having a latte up in the mountain. I don't know, because my life is hectic. See, I was about to jump on here and give a whole sermon, a whole devotional, and then my laptop began to update. And Nina had taken Elijah, and she went into the shower, so I had a whole 7 minutes of time. That's about how my day went. But it really sort of is true that God is working for the good of all those who love him and are called according to his purposes. And so I thought about that verse. That's the verse I've been thinking about. That's the verse I was going to use anyway. But I thought about all those times, like when we're in the bad, when we're in the moment, when we're getting drawn into these different things, when it's really hard to see God working. And to think about, is God working right now? Is he still working? And you can't really see it in the moment. But it says, and we know. There's some certainty to it, right? And we know. There's some certain things that we can know, even in the midst of darkness, even in the midst of trials, even in the midst of everything. There are some certain things we can know with absoluteness. As Christians, we know these things. I remember one time I got a phone call, and it was in the middle of the night, so it was a really bad situation already. Like, you shouldn't be calling me this late at night. But they called twice or three times, and I answered on the third time. And they told me, well, so-and-so is on the hospital bed, and they're doing CPR right now. And I remember that, and I thought, well, something is bad here. Something really bad is about to happen. But I also remembered that the gentleman was a Christian, so I knew with certainty that there were some very real things that we can certainly know about that situation that is good. Like, the gentleman didn't survive that. He didn't come out of CPR. But I know, and you know, as Christians, that he's in a better place. That he's with the Father. He's with Jesus, as they say. Because we know with certainty that Jesus came to earth. We know with certainty that he walked among us. And we know with certainty that he took on all of the trials, all of the suffering, onto himself, as he went to the cross and bore it for us, conquering sin. And we know with certainty that he died that day. But we also know with certainty, and we'll celebrate it on Easter, that 3 days later he rose from the grave, conquering death. Death has lost its sting. Now that's interesting. Death has lost its sting. That doesn't mean that death doesn't happen. Death still exists. Death is still an experience for all of us. Someone once told me, well, if you died, it would be a better thing. Wouldn't you want to do that? And I was like, no, I don't want to experience it. The experience of death would be, I don't know. But we know it's lost its sting. He's defeated it. One day, all of God's people will rise together and be pulled up into the clouds and meet with him. because he's coming back again. We know that with certainty. And we know that in all things, God is working towards the good of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. That those who love him, as Christians, we know with certainty about that. And so even in the midst of our trials, even in the midst of our hard days, even when we're stumbling around in the dark with our cell phone lights, looking for our cell phones because we've lost our minds, even when it's Friday and we think it's Wednesday. You've been there. Don't act like you haven't. God is still working. And oftentimes we don't know it until we look back. Until we see all the ways that God worked in our lives and all the times that God was there and that God was moving. And so in these times, no matter what you're doing, no matter what's going on, the good, the bad, the very ugly times, just know with certainty that God loves you. And that if you love him, there are certain things that you can know. Mainly that he is working in all things. And he's working toward the ultimate good. The day in which we will be reunited with him in heavenly realms in glory. And all the suffering and all the pain and all the things that we get hung up on, they'll all be vanished. There'll be no more. We can know that with certainty. So think on those things. Think of those things that you can know with absolute certainty. And be reminded that we have a God who loves us and wants nothing more than to spend eternity with us.